What does dating as a Christian look like? So, when I was in high school and college, there was a book that came out where someone tried to define this is what Christian dating looks like. And there were a lot of really good principles in that book. But it turns out that they didn't have a monopoly on what Christian dating looks like. And the Bible does not give us a recipe of exactly what your first date should look like, your second date should look like, how many dates you should have, but it does give us some principles. And there is wisdom in using and applying principles. There's danger in creating a formula. And I'm going to tell you a story to kick this off. When I was in Bible school, I came back over Christmas time, and I ran into a girl that I had gone to school with. And we were at like a church event, and we had a good time talking, and then when it was done, I was like, hey, do you have an email address or anything? This is kind of before we were all carrying cell phones. So couldn't get a phone number, but I said, do you have an email address that, maybe I can get it? She said, I don't have an email address, but if you email my dad, he has one, and he'll get it to me. I'm like, sure. So I did. After I went back to school, I sent an email and just said, hello, Mr. Such and Such. Ran into your daughter at this such and such an event, and she just said that if I wanted to reach her, I could reach her through you. So this message is to pass on to her. It was good to see you. What's going on? Just a very respectful, polite, how you doing? He wrote me back. An essay is an understatement. He wrote me probably 12 pages worth of description explaining, starting with, you may not contact my daughter because we have a process. And he went through and he outlined what he considered to be Christian courtship. And before I could have a conversation with her, I had to have a meeting with him. He had to have a meeting with my parents. I had to agree that God had called me to marry her, and then we could talk. And he went through all of this stuff, and he had all of these processes that we were going to go through. And before, the first time that I was to do something with her, it was going to be a family dinner, and we were going to sit down with his family and all the 9 kids that they had. She was the oldest, by the way. They hadn't done this yet. And there was this whole process. And I responded, and I said, okay, I will not attempt to contact your daughter. But if you don't mind me asking some questions about this process you outlined. And I began to discuss with him, what's the point of this and why and how, and we discussed this. And long story short, I didn't agree with his process because I didn't think it protected her heart like he wanted it to. Basically, what he was saying was, until you know you're going to marry her, you can't talk to her. And I said, well, if I haven't talked to her, how would I ever know I want to marry her? And he's like, basically, he wanted, God in heaven to come down, give me revelation that I was marrying her before I could talk to her. And I kept saying, well, if that's the case, the first time she sees a man show up to family dinner, she's going to know he's already committed to marrying her. Her heart's going to be pretty committed. If he doesn't happen to get along with her and decides not to do it, you just crushed her heart. Why not allow them to build a friendship that has as a goal guarding their heart? And we debated back and forth. And that story is long enough. I could take the whole day just telling how things rolled out. But I will say this. Years went by. They had a pile of kids that they wanted to put through that process, and it did not go well, as you can probably imagine. Within the children, one of the kids officially changed his name so that he wouldn't have to be associated with his parents, whose heart was good, but they thought that they could control the outcome by creating a recipe of exactly what to do. So if you were single today and they asked the question, what does Christian dating look like? And you were hoping to get a map of what to do on date 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the Bible doesn't give us one. But it does give us some very powerful principles. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." Another verse translation says, "Guard your heart with all diligence." Today's dating pool has made a sport out of your heart. In fact, the idea of dating someone you don't even want to date. Today's society says, well, you're friend zoned. Your friends are people you don't date. And you date people that aren't your friends. And you give them your heart for a while until you don't want them to have it anymore, and then you take it back. And then you go give it to somebody else who you probably don't know very well, but who's romantically interested in you. You give it to them, and then you take it back. How many of you can notice that might not be very good for your heart? Christian dating guards your heart. The Bible says that to guard it, because out of it flow the issues of life. What does that look like? When I was dating and I would go out with someone, if I realized that this person wasn't someone I had any future plans with, I didn't say, "But you're cute enough, why don't we just exchange hearts for a few months and then I'll take it back before I get somewhere." No. When I realized, whether that was date 1 or date 2 or date 3, if I realized this is not a relationship I want to end in marriage, I didn't say, "Okay, but let's exchange hearts anyway." I said, "You know what? I've enjoyed getting to know you. I admire this, and this quality in you. But I also recognize that this isn't going to have a future. So I want to guard my heart, and I want to guard your heart." That's how I did it. Again, I'm not trying to give you step by step, but I am giving you a principle. A Christian isn't playing a game of exchanging hearts. We don't enter romances because, by golly, I don't have a romantic someone else right now, so I just need one. The Bible says in 1 Timothy chapter 5:1, it says, "Rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger men as brethren, and the elder women as mothers, and the younger as sisters, with all purity." This is principle number 2. The Bible says to treat younger women as sisters with all purity. Treat women with purity. Guys, it doesn't say except the one you're dating. You can treat her disrespectfully. You can treat her without purity. No, it doesn't. We are called as Christians who are interested in dating to treat each other with respect and purity. The world, again, has devised a system where romantic dating is about accomplishing, making it around the bases. That's not the perspective that a godly Christian has about dating. We're not trying to make it as far as possible. How far is too far? Nobody needs to hit. How would you treat someone who is your sister? And then when you have like come to a point where you say, you know what, barring anything else, I really think that I would probably like to marry that person, then we'd treat them like we want our future spouse to be treated. We like our kids. We want them to be treated with respect, with purity. Song of Solomon